don't make us who we are. So I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Mentorship Mondays with Michelle and Maren and Michael, too. So
It's
Do I
the
have to
three
sing?
M's.
it's the three M's. It's triple M, actually on a Monday. So it's quadruple M's.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And we're also offering motivation. So we could keep going with this. This could be
Yeah.
like a little shtick. But hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Today is really exciting because we have our first, Maren and I's first on this channel to come and join us and do an interview with. And like, this is a very serious interview, super serious. Michael, I hope that you are ready to
I'm ready.
answer these questions. Like,
I have no sense of humor. I'm
no,
ready.
no sense of humor at all. No sense of humor at all. But Michael has an awesome story. He really does. A story of inspiration, a story of overcoming, and a very interesting story to boot. A boot.
A boot?
That's a boot. Now,
What
Michael
you
and I,
talking about, eh?
yeah, Michael and I do go way back. And you'll notice there's a lot of Canadian references because he does cut me up with my Canadian accent and my a boot and A's and all those things that I say. So don't mind that. Don't mind that from the peanut gallery over here. But Michael,
Okay, well,
I'm only 50 miles from the Canadian border, so
yeah,
you
that's
know.
true.
okay, that's what I was going to ask. Are you from Canada?
No, I'm in North Dakota, but yeah,
North
we're almost
Dakota.
right on the border.
He's an
Got it.
honorary Canadian.
Got it.
We
Got
made
it.
him an
Yeah.
honorary Canadian years ago
Yeah.
because he adopted the flag and it's in his emoticons and he does pop it up every now and again. So we've made him an honorary Canadian. But yeah, Michael and I have known each other for
2015-ish,
20.
I think
Yeah, it's been quite a while. It's been quite
Yeah.
a while. And we met through a mutual friend that's a healer.
Mhm.
And um they were in this group that some other mediums that we know were in as well. And we used to meet every Monday and we'd call it like a circle or a get together and we would sit and sometimes we'd hear light language. Sometimes we would talk about our experiences through the week. I think at that time we weren't doing personal clients. A lot of us were in this stage of really major growth. You know, we'd all had an awakening. We'd all just it was like we'd just all come off the boat of a major healing experience.
Mhm.
You know, we'd all gone through something in our group pretty substantial and we were all on this path of growth and we were all very connected to spirit and knew that we were wanting and meant to be of service to others. So that's kind of how that all started. And we would meet every week and we would practice, basically practice channeling, just sharing all kinds of, it was so good. And it was such a, for me, and I know Michael, I believe for you as well, it was such a good experience to have that interaction
Yeah.
because it's so different when you're pulling in information with spirit and working with spirit on your own. And then when you have a group, and Maren, I know you feel that too, when you have a
Hmm.
group that you can work with and talk to and bounce things off of. So
Hmm.
that time is, I think very favorably back to that time because that was a really good time for all of us. So we have known each other for a long time. So I do know Michael's story, but
Okay, well, I am ready to hear it.
Maren doesn't. So
Yeah.
Michael,
Oh,
please take it away. Tell us, what were you doing in your life previous to spirit? What was life like for you? You know, what was your mindset like? And then what started to shift? How did all that happen?
so always find it interesting because it's a it's a long story, so I condense it down because it spans a period of probably 23, 24 years. I mean, looking back and all
Yeah.
the events that took place that led up to really what I'm doing now. Back then I didn't know, this is where this was going. But I think a lot of us, when we look back, we didn't see the trail of breadcrumbs
Yeah.
leading us to this craziness that we do now.
Yeah.
So for me, and I never know where to start. So I'll just go in order.
Yeah.
I'll just go back. So I served in the Air Force for 20 years, air traffic control, and then I continued that on after I retired in 2009. So I'll go back, trying to keep this in order. I'll just start with this. So the first passing that I ever really not experienced, but on a peer level, was with my stepbrother. Now, I don't consider them stepbrothers, they were my brothers.
Mhm.
So both of my brothers, Jason and Danny, were born with cystic fibrosis, which is just it's a brutal disease that you're just born with, and there's no positive outcome for it. I mean, usually. And with Jason, I'll just advance quickly here with that. At 26, he passed from complications from the illness. He was on a transplant list for lungs, but a couple weeks prior to the surgery, he just became so ill that he wouldn't have survived it. So they unfortunately had to take him off the list. So at 26, he passed. And that was my first experience again with somebody on my level. We're only a year apart. And it did hit me hard. And it was actually, I just got back from a deployment. So it was kind of just like, I wanted to see him, but never had the opportunity prior to that. And then shortly after that, I was diagnosed with kidney disease. And that was, so his passing was 97. 2000 is when I found out about my situation. And it came out of nowhere. I wasn't sick. I actually went into the doctors because I needed a flight physical because I was going to start flying planes. So I go into this appointment thinking, I'm healthy, nothing, go in, go out. And during the examination, they found some, markers that kind of pointed to, you need to get this checked because it may be something serious. And it was actually pretty advanced. It had been there for who knows how long. I was having no physical symptoms. But they pretty much told me after a biopsy and all the good stuff that chances are this will lead to kidney failure, eventually. So that was a pretty monumental turning point because in that moment I had to stop. And that was my first lesson in learning to live in the moment because I had a choice to make at that point. It was either I could sit and worry about this, which does me no good, or I can just, accept that, all right, this is where we are and just, live my life normally. Was it easy? No. I often let my mind or found my mind wandering into those dark areas of, what's going to happen. And just, you can imagine if you allow yourself to go in that direction, it could just defeat any motivation for virtually anything, finishing school, which I was doing. I was going to college and, the thought was, well, why continue? What's the point? So it was those moments I had to just come back and say, no, and basically check in with myself, how, all that mattered was right now.
Yeah.
So that was my new way of living.
Yeah.
So shortly after that period, 2012 rolled around, or I'm sorry, 2001. So right after the 9/11 attacks, my other brother, Danny, was on the transplant list. 2 days after the bombings on 9/11, he got a call from New York to come down. They had a set of lungs. So he goes down, has a transplant, everything was fine, so he came out of that, everything was great. I would say 5 years later, his lungs went into rejection, which is always, something we face with a transplant. But he was lucky enough to get a second chance again. Normally they don't do them, but he did. He went through the surgery, everything was fine. 2010 rolls around. 2009, I'm sorry, I retired from the Air Force. Not even a year later, my kidneys decided they've had enough. So I went into kidney failure. And it was weird because even though I knew this day was coming, I lived with it for almost 10 years. When I found out that they were pretty much done, it was like day one again. It just hit me all over. And I remember leaving the doctor's office. I was by myself, and I just got my truck and just drove. I drove around for 3 hours, just trying to process the reality. And it was just a weird feeling that I just got home, and it was all matter of fact. I think I was still in shock, but I told Sheila, my wife, I was like, told her what happened, and I said, look, I said, I don't want to go through with this. I said, I don't want to wait. I just want nature to take its, course. Because in that moment, I was more afraid of waiting and just going through the process of dialysis and all that. I was just like, for me in that moment, it was easier for me to just die or let myself go. But it was odd because maybe a day or two later, I just had this feeling come over me, and I know it was my brother.
Yeah.
And it was just a moment of, you got to give this a chance, and again, I didn't realize it at the time, but it was him. I know it was him because the thought was, here's Jason. He didn't have the option of dialysis. It was like, once your lungs are done, you're done.
Yeah.
So I told my wife, I was like, look, I'm going to give this a year. If I don't have a transplant in a year, I'm done, because I'm not going to live on a machine. And it wasn't maybe a few weeks later. I'm skipping some of this because my whole family got tested, but nobody really. My brother actually matched my other brother. But 2 weeks prior to the surgery, he got a staph infection, which turned MRSA, and then called off the surgery. So that was like 3 or 4 months into dialysis.
Yeah.
So here we are again, another roadblock.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, what can you do? I had a great attitude for dialysis. I was just like, this is it. I'm going to live my life. Same thing, same mentality. I exercised every day, lived normal as best I can.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks after my brother's situation, my friend who was in the Air Force with me reached out, and he said, basically, he wanted to donate. And it was like out of nowhere. We hadn't talked in probably a few years. Somehow he found out about it, probably over Facebook. Long story short, he got tested. He was still active duty. The Air Force gave him permission to do it. December 7th of 2010, we went forward with the transplant, so it's been fine ever since. So it was 2 years after that, my other brother, Danny, who had gone through the second lung transplant, ended up going into kidney failure, started dialysis. But shortly after that, he ended up developing lymphoma cancer in his lungs, and ended up passing away in 2012 at 42. And I was just like, I look at those two. Those two were my inspiration going forward. Everything they lived with from the moment they were born. And every time I felt maybe that little ounce of feeling sorry for myself, I just remembered them, that neither one of them ever, displayed sympathy. They didn't want sympathy. This is their life. They were normal. They fought every minute of it and just lived normally. So they kind of kept me in check with, keeping me going forward. So after he passed, it was kind of like, just another hit. And then if that wasn't enough, 2015, I get a call at work one day from my mom, and she said, your sister's been stabbed. And I was just like, what? I was just like, I just didn't want to hear from my mom anymore, because every time she called, something was going on.
Right.
And she goes, we don't know anything else at the moment. We'll let you know. Well, it ended up being fatal, because 2 days after the incident, they removed her from life support. And it was like 5 days from her 33rd birthday. And that again, there was a whole host of emotions with that, because it's a long story, and maybe if we do this again, I can elaborate a little bit on her situation. But this is where things started to happen really for me, because a couple months after her passing, I was working out one day and I was watching YouTube, and I somehow clicked on a video of Jamie Butler channeling Eric. Now, I forgot to mention that all these years I've been watching mediums on TV. John Edward back in 2000 when he had a show, so I was familiar. I had read all these books on mediums, so I understood. So I found that interview, and then afterwards I clicked on the website, because they still hadn't found the person that did this to my sister. So I clicked on the page, found out that there was mediums that worked with, unsolved, crimes.
Yeah.
And I think at the time it was Linda Hack. There was a medium named Jules, and there was one other person. I can't remember her name right now, and I feel terrible about that.
Jan.
Jan, yes, it was Jan. There was maybe one other one that I couldn't remember, but
Yeah.
there was in Jan. So I reached out and they just started helping me. They started just without asking anything for themselves. I was just like, well, this is interesting, you know?
Yeah.
So over a period of just a few weeks, we just started talking, you know, on other things about besides that. And this is where things got interesting. I keep saying that, but this is truly where it got interesting. So I get up for work one morning and it's 5 in the morning. Nobody else is up. It's just me and my wife anyway in the house. And as I'm getting ready in the kitchen, I feel like somebody walked in the room. So I thought Sheila got up. I turned around, nobody's there. I was like, well, it was odd. Go back to doing what I'm doing. And all of a sudden I feel it again. But this time I see in my mind, I see my sister standing behind me in the kitchen. I was just like, this is weird. And it's weird because she, in my mind, and I feel at the same time, she walks up behind me, she puts her arms around me, and she lays her head on my shoulder. And I was just like frozen because I was like, what is this? I thought I was losing my mind. I hadn't been thinking of her. It was just like, it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
So 20, 30 seconds later, you know, the thought and the feeling just kind of fade. And I was just like, what the hell was that? So I held on to that. I didn't talk about it. A few weeks later, I mentioned it to Linda, and I didn't say anything besides this happened, you know, no details, but I just said I had this experience. And she immediately felt that it, you know, and she told me, just validated it. So I was like, that was the first ever, you know, it was my first experience with anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, it led to another conversation about whatever, I don't remember, but as we're talking, and again, this is years ago, so I'm trying to remember,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember talking to Linda and I remember hearing this voice in my head that kept interrupting and say, tell her, I believe her father's name was Jim. But I heard this voice say, tell her it's Jim. I was like, you know, ignored it. We continued talking. I hear it again. And then the third time, tell her it's Jim. And I heard him say, I passed the cancer. And I finally was like, Linda, I don't know what's going on, but, you know, I have this, I'm hearing this freaking voice in my head. And he's saying, tell her it's Jim. And I passed the cancer. And she said, that's my father. And I was like, what? You know,
Wow.
because that's my father. And then she proceeds to tell me that you're a medium. And I was like, no, I'm not. You know, if I remember correctly, we had this debate for a few minutes, you know, and she finally convinced me that something was going on. And I needed to take, you know, she suggested a development class, which I eventually did. So I'll stop there.
So
That's
you
amazing.
hadn't had any psychic or mediumship experiences until those two experiences?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, looking back, I can pick out moments where I tuned into things that were going on. But I wasn't aware if that's what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll explain why, because in my mind, I thought mediums saw spirit like to do people. I figured, you know, I had this belief that they heard with their physical, you know, senses. So, you know, I was not aware of that's what was happening.
Right.
So I'm sure, like all of us, I mean, I believe we all have this ability. It's just most of us aren't aware of it because it's our normal thing, but some of us are more heightened, you know, have a more heightened sensitivity to it. So yeah, that was my first, you know, real experience with pushing me in this direction that I fought every step of the way.
Yeah, and I remember that there was some resistance at some points, but what's interesting to me is no, because you call yourself evidential medium and you do get a lot of evidence. And so let me just ask you, because I know you did have some training, but when you started doing mediumship, how did they come to you at first? What did you do to, like, I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, what did you understand or kind of play with to communicate with spirit at first, and then what were you taught, and what did you kind of change in that process?
So I will say this. So Mimi Bonham was my first
Hmm.
teacher. She was part of the channeling era group back
Yeah.
then too. So she's from Canada too, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, she was from
Montreal.
Quebec. Yeah,
Yeah.
or yeah,
Yeah.
Quebec,
Yeah.
Montreal. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, so luckily I got hooked up with her right away
Hmm.
within probably a month or so of that experience. So
So you didn't fight that then. You were like, okay, I should
I,
really investigate.
I thought about the class and I finally was like, I need to just do this to see what's going on. So that was my attitude. It wasn't like I'm going to be a medium. It was like, well, let me just see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so reference your question, it all kind of happened at once. So I went into this not understanding anything besides what I read about mediums.
Yep.
Now I got to add this because all those years, all those times I was reading about mediums, no one ever, I don't remember ever reading about somebody breaking down the experience about mental mediumship and the objective mediumship and subjective mediumship. So I had no idea.
Yeah.
So this is what really happened with this class. It was a basic class, and it was just you were going to learn about a different clair each week. Okay, so the first week was clairsent or clairvoyance. She proceeds to start teaching about clairvoyance, and when she explained the part about you see these images in your mind. That's how clairvoyance works for most of us. There's only a small percentage of people that actually see physically. And that was like, once I understood that, it was like the doors just kicked open. I was like,
Hmm.
holy moly, I can now, I was like, huh. That's where things started making sense to like, okay, I think this has been here. Same thing with learning about the clairaudience.
Yes.
I was like, so it's your mind's actually your self-talk. And I was like, whoa, okay. So, and then the weeks preceding or following that were just, a few more clairs, but it was like, wow. So I will say this, I have not taken many classes because after Mimi's one or two, it was kind of like, I wanted to do this on my own. I wanted to figure things out for my own. So I started a Facebook page at that time, not knowing what the heck, and my whole purpose was to practice. That was it. I was going to sit down with people and just start doing things.
Yeah.
No idea. I was just like, let's see what happens. But it was after Mimi's, I think, second class where I was actually sitting down with somebody in the class. Like she would pick somebody for me to read. And I remember to this day, it was like a split screen on Zoom. So I was in the middle, the person I was reading, I was right, and Mimi was on the left. Now, granted, this was probably the first reading or first one or two I ever had done. And during the reading, I could just see Mimi's face. She's just looking at like this expression, like, and the woman I'm reading after I get done, she's like, how long have you been doing this? I'm like, maybe 6 weeks, she goes, I would pay you for a reading you just gave me. And I was like, what? You know,
Yeah.
and afterwards, after the class, Mimi was like, I've worked with a lot of mediums and it's like, just, this is not usual. And for me, I didn't think anything of it because I didn't know any different. But apparently it was just one of those things that was just natural.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to say I haven't worked at it because that was raw. That was just the
Yeah.
beginning, but things just kind of made sense in a weird way.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's kind of where that started. And I want to stop there because I can go on to what happened following that to put me kind of out there.
Well, and then now you took Arthur Finley. You went to Arthur Finley?
That was, yeah, actually about shortly after that class with Mimi, maybe 6 months later, she told me about this instructor, Andy Bing, who I didn't know anything about Arthur Finley or any of that.
Hmm.
So she's like, you got to get in this, take this with me. I was like, okay. So I did. But the thing is, it was a year long or 6 month, I think it was year long mentorship. After 4 months, I stopped because I was becoming frustrated because some of the things were going against what felt right for me. And it just frustrated,
Yeah.
it really frustrated me. And I stopped.
Yeah.
And I kind of went back to my own thing.
And there's a good point right there. That's a very good lesson to kind of stop for a second and speak about, because There are so many different ways that we can learn. There's a lot of, you know, like not knocking Arthur Findlay or anything, but a lot of organized groups and that do these classes, and it's awesome. But when we have something natural within us that we're learning to understand, when that nature comes up and says, no, no, you do it this way, when you feel pulled in that other direction with yourself. And I froze. I think you guys can still hear me though, but I did,
Hear
everything
you.
froze
Yeah.
up. Oh, there we go. Okay. But when you feel pulled in that direction of this isn't right for me,
Mhm.
it's so important to follow that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
important.
yeah, and that's why I always kind of talk about too how I was always seeking like the instruction manual, like how do you do this? But there is no instruction manual because it's you. So
Yes.
I love that you honored your intuition and kind of went your own way.
Yeah.
Because that's so important because it's your instruction manual. No one can tell you.
Yes.
And they do have these classes, and I think that's the most frustrating thing in the class is that they're like, really, I have nothing to tell you. You just have to practice and see what works for you. Like that's their biggest,
Yeah.
advice
It
they
is.
give
Yeah.
you in the
It
class.
is. Yep, they give you the tools to work with, and that's what I
Yes.
took away from that. It's like take what resonates with you.
Yep.
Mhm.
So the same, I don't want to knock any schools, but the thing is, I think what people need to realize is don't go into that trying to emulate or duplicate that person that's teaching the
That's
class.
right. That's
You're
right.
going to get just frustrated.
Yeah.
Take what they teach you, take the tools, and use them in your own way to
That's right.
develop your own way.
Hmm.
Mhm.
That's what I learned from that.
That's right. Because it's framework. The
Mhm.
tools, anything, from any one of us that somebody is learning any class, none of us are exactly the same. There are bits and pieces that we can say commonly, yes, I understand that. Yes, I've experienced that before. But
Mhm.
when it comes right down to it, nobody else can really tell you what's right and wrong for you, and nobody else can really say, you know, this is this way. This is the right way. You have to do it this way. That's just not so. And I mean, that could go for so many things in the world and in our spiritual journey in general, just with our belief systems. But it
Right.
is so important that you honor yourself. So I really love that you said that, because I think that's one of the biggest things that I hear is, well, I know I'm intuitive, but Michelle, I don't do it like you do, or I don't do it like this person does, or I'm not like, and that is the biggest disservice to ourselves when we start to discount how we are perceiving. So
Right.
even if you don't fully understand it, it's you're a lot better to just go in and keep practicing with it and figuring it out rather than trying to force it to be like somebody else or something else.
Yeah.
So now here we are today, and you you offer online sessions, you offer in-person sessions as
Yeah. I
well.
have
You
an
have an office
office.
that you work out of.
Yep.
Um, so what brought you to this place to now doing what you
Um,
do?
I think just years of just building up things. So I got to say with Mimi though, she was the one that dubbed me. I got to point this out with the title Evidential Medium. I didn't know what that was. She was
Yeah.
like, "You're an evidential medium." I'm like, "Okay." I didn't realize later what the heck that meant. I'm like, "Holy crap, that puts a lot of pressure on me." But it is what it is.
Yeah.
But again, it's just a title. That's how I look at that. It's like it's just a title. Um,
And an
so
Michael, explain what that is for everyone
Yeah.
else in
Yeah.
case they don't.
okay. So evidential mediumship, basically, it's like in order for I should say for me to believe what was going on and trust what was going on and just buy into this, I'll say that it's probably not the right word, but I am. They had to prove to me, I had to prove to myself that what they're giving me makes sense. So I don't just give the fluffy, dad loves you, mom loves you. Yeah, that's a message that comes later, but it's like when they come in, it's like, and I've changed my ways over years, but initially it was like, okay, we're going to work with a framework. So when you come in, I need to know if you're male or female.
Mhm.
So naturally, for some reason, males would show up on my right, females would show up on my left. So I was like, okay, it's just, that's the way it happens. So from there, I would find, okay, how'd you pass? So that's usually what would come in second. Then I'd find out a little bit about them, like what they did for a living. It may be a hobby. So I would get these pieces of evidence that was, absolute. Like the person had to validate, yep, that's my dad. He passed of a heart attack. He worked at the post office, blah, blah, blah. Once I have that established, that there's no doubt in that person's mind that this is their example father. From there, then it's like I just let them speak. I'm their voice. So whatever thought, spark, whatever you want to call it, touches my mind, I talk about it. And that's taken years of development too. I don't have any perception. I don't have any expectation. It's like whatever they show me, I will talk about, whether I hear it,
Yes.
feel it, see it. And a running joke, and I tell this to all my clients, is like literally, if they show me a pig riding on a pony, I'm going to talk about a pig riding on a pony.
Yeah.
It's not my message. I don't need to understand it. I just need to talk about what they're expressing to me.
Right. Right.
So that in a nutshell is evidential mediumship. Again, I don't get into any messages about anything until they validate who they are through hard evidence.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the short of it.
And it's interesting because that is setting the intention.
Mhm.
Right there, is setting the intention for the evidence so that
Yes.
all spirits know what your structure is. So they know that, okay, as we come in and Michael's the conduit, so we know that we're going to feed this information to
Mhm.
Michael. It's important that he has that, because once you do, with that being in your belief system, you energetically blow open the doors for everything else to come in once that meets. So it's very interesting to kind of hear you break it down that way. And maybe what it'd be really interesting to hear too is, what are some of the things that you really worked through to overcome? Or is there something that you can remember that was a big one?
Yeah. Yeah. I hope this plays into it, because I'm just going to put this out there because it's in my mind right now.
Mhm.
So, and it's a bold statement, and I know it is, but this is where I'm at right now. And this is what I've learned over the years. And it's kind of like, again, this is where I'm at right now. Mediumship is easy. I will say that. And it truly is. Mediumship is probably the easiest thing I've ever done.
Mhm.
I know it's bold. The hard part about mediumship is right here.
Yeah.
Our ego, our mind, we get in the way of it. Spirit is always there. Spirit is omnipresent.
Yes.
They're there. They have the messages. They're showing us. They're telling us, however they communicate it to you as an individual medium.
Yeah.
The information's there. It's just us developing and training ourselves to understand that we're the ones getting in the way. When we start worrying about, oh my God, I gotta make sure I get this right, or what if they don't show up? So all these things start entering your mind and give less space for spirit to use you as a vehicle.
Yes.
So that's the development part of mediumship for me, is to just work on getting those thoughts, trusting. And it's no longer, I think they're there, or I wonder. And no, I know they're there.
Yes.
I know they want to communicate with the person sitting there. So it's just me pushing myself, getting myself out of the way. So that in a nutshell is what I've been working on, for years. And even with that checklist approach that I talked about just a few minutes ago, I no longer use that. I know they're there. Again, I feel them show up.
Yep.
But it's like they give me evidence. Sometimes they don't want to talk about their passing. I mean, who wants to relive that moment? So I don't ask them, no, you got to tell me about your passing.
Yeah.
No, they give me other things to work with that are evidential based.
Yeah.
So I have to make that statement also, that I just open up. And again, they understand me.
Yeah.
So
They know what you need.
yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm trying to condense this because I could jabber.
No,
Well,
that's great. That's great.
Yeah,
'cause
I feel the same way as you too. It's like, I think my first year was, are they going to show up? Are they going to show up? Are they going to show up? And then I even said on our last recording, man, it was so great. I got to work and think about all this other stuff all day. And then I just sat down and they were there and I just can't believe it.
Yes.
It's like, you almost feel like, did I spend enough time with the spirit world for them to be there? And like, you just get in your head but they're always there.
Yeah.
But now I am kind of like, oh gosh, don't show me a pig riding a pony, because I don't know if I can say that. Like, so
I had a reference.
my
I
head
had a
off.
reference last night of someone's friend that passed it. Basically, did a magic Mike moment for me in my head, and I'm like, great. Now I'll never get that image out of my mind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Dude's coming in wearing a cowboy hat and nothing else. I'm like, really, dude?
That is hilarious. I got to tell you, what's so funny is I was doing, like, for meditation a lot, I do art. And last night I decided to, was it last night? Yes, it was. Last night I was doing a little bit of spirit art, right? So I just scribble on the paper. I don't even look at it. I just scribble with some charcoal. And then I go and I look at it and I start to see an image. So I'll start to see like the shape of eyes or nose, mouth. Anyway, the man was a man with a cowboy hat.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, so it's just funny that you'd say that, because I was like, oh, I've never had somebody come through with a cowboy hat on before. It's just funny that you said that, but it was
Cowboy
the
hat
same
and a
guy.
smile.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get the bottom half, so I don't know. He looked a little older too. No offense to the older gentlemen, but I don't know if it's really something I wanted to see, but it's neither here nor there. But so what would you in everything that you've experienced, actually, let me ask you this first.
Sure.
So, every now and again we get somebody that sits with us that maybe hasn't had experience with the medium before, or maybe they're really skeptical, and they just, because there are those out there that aren't maybe leading with the best intentions, right?
Mhm.
So have you had an experience with somebody where the energy felt real flat, where it was really challenging to pull something out? And how do you work with that? How do you overcome that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I look forward to those people. I want to be somebody's first experience with a medium. I do. And I'm a skeptic myself. I always have been and I always will be, because I have to have this validation for myself. So one thing I've learned about that, and again, this has taken the years of development, is I put my trust completely with spirit. I know what they're coming through. I know when they're coming through, and I know what they're showing me fits somewhere. Sometimes the client doesn't get it at first. And especially with the ones that are, very skeptical. And I actually, a recent one was just that she sat down. I've never sat down with a medium, but I know they read body language. And she's like, I'm a skeptic. I just want you to know that. I'm like, thank you. I said, because I want you to be hard on me. I want you to walk away knowing, or at least considering, that there is more after this, right?
Yeah.
So I said, no, be a skeptic, because I want to prove this to you in a way. I don't prove it to anybody, but it's going to be proven through evidence. So throughout that reading, it was just one thing after another, I won't get into the reading, but it was just like she left there. She was dumbfounded. That's her words. She left there. She goes, I have to process this, because it wasn't any. And I'll give you one example. It's like her mother was the one coming through, and so her mom starts talking about the teacher in the family, and I had a feeling it was her, the woman that was sitting there. So I said, your mom's referencing the teacher in the family. She goes, no, there's no teacher in the family. Said, okay. So in my mind, I sent it to Mom. What do you mean? She goes, special education teacher. So I said, she's highlighting special education. This woman is a special education teacher. She's like, no, there's no teacher in the family. I was like, okay. I said something else, and she goes, you know what? She goes, I got to share this. So I went to school to be a teacher. My specialization was special education, but I never actually went into teaching. That was like just a profound lesson to me.
Yeah.
That again, and she apologized after. She goes, again, it was just she was in shock about the stuff coming through
Yes.
because it was like evidence. Because when I was like, Mom, what are you talking about? The next thought was special education. I heard it loud and clear. So again, years of training and just learning to trust spirit, they will give you what that person needs to hear. And that was just one example. So that's kind of how I go into every session. I know spirit's going to show up. I know they're there. I know they're there.
Yes. That's a valuable it's a valuable point there, because even myself, there's times where there'll be so much going on. I don't know if you hear like this, Michael or Maren, but I feel like a lot of times I'm hearing, now not all the time, sometimes if it's a really intimate conversation, it'll just be that one kind of line of energy that I'm hearing. But sometimes there's multi levels going on,
Mhm.
and I'll move on to the next thing if this one thing is not being acknowledged. I might go at it a couple times, but I will give up with that and then move on to something else. And so just as you're saying that, I've got a little bird in my ear over here saying, pay attention to this, pay attention to this, saying, don't give up so soon.
Yes,
Ask
that
again.
is.
And it depends. I guess it just depends on the situation, but I've found, and this, and I'll say this over and over, but it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. We get, just like driving a car, we start to get comfortable with not checking our mirrors. We start to get comfortable with not seeing how many car lengths we are, between this
Hmm.
us and the next car. So we're not really looking at the handbook anymore. And every now and again, we have to be brought back to our basics and be reminded of all of these little pieces. So that just reminds me today to listen. And I have a feeling that it's because something that's coming up today, it'll be important for me, because we know how spirit works,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, so thank you for that, because that personally is something I needed to hear
Yeah.
today too.
I'll add one thing to that,
Yeah.
and then I'll shut up. But the thing is, it's like I've gotten to the point where I don't give up
Yeah.
because if they're showing something to me, it's
Yeah.
significant.
Yes.
And again, we're taking energy and translating it into physical language. So there's
Yes.
going to be mistake or not mistakes, but we're going to misinterpret.
Misinterpret. Yeah.
So they may send it to me and I may misinterpret and I get a no, but I'm like, okay. Then I go back to them, like, explain, show me,
Yeah.
give it to me in a way that I understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
If I have to spend 5 minutes on that one thing, I'm going to do it because there's something significant there. Where in the past I would go, okay, I'm wrong. I need to move on from this because
Yeah.
I'm making a mistake.
Yeah.
So again, we're condensing, our years of development and what we've gone through to just these little snippets.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at now with that. It's like, no, they're showing this to me
Yeah.
for some reason.
Yeah.
You ever feel, Michael, like sometimes that'll happen to me where I'll give something and they'll say no, and then I try to clarify like you did. And if they're still saying no, then I'll push again, but I feel like the energy gets more dense, and I
Oh, it does.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so then what I try to do is I go, okay, I'm going to go off, but please like bring it back to me once like the energy gets lighter. So
Yes.
I go away, but I keep it on, on the back burner. Do you ever do that?
I have, but I'm stubborn too. So it's like, no, just like that woman there, that example, when she said there's no teacher, I could have easily said, okay, I'm wrong. I'll move on.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, I know what her mom sent me. I know there's something here with
Yeah.
this teacher.
Yeah.
And what happened? I kept pushing, and eventually she's just like, oh,
Yeah.
and as a medium in your mind, you're going, really? You're not going to give me that? You're not going to give that to me? That your mom's reference just because you didn't actually do the job, but you went to school, and not only that, your degree was in special education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much more evidence do you need?
Well, and a lot of times I find that, because just as you're saying this, I'm like, well, I know they're giving me something that has meaning. I know
Mhm.
it's not, it's either I'm not I'm misinterpreting, I'm not saying it, or that person's not connecting it. And so I will always leave it with, okay, well, there's something to this.
Yeah.
Okay. And like you, Maren, many times I'll just set it aside, and a lot of times spirit will come back around themselves and incorporate it into the conversation. And
Yes.
it's usually something so simple and obvious, right, when it comes back.
Mhm.
But there's times that the actual session itself, there's so much overwhelm. And speaking from the sitter's perspective, there's so much overwhelm, and they kind of feel put on the spot at sometimes, and they're like, not now with the question about being a teacher, like that might have been something that it took her a second to kind of click into. But there's other things that sometimes I'll get an email back later and be like, you know what? I just want to let you know that this that you said to me, I couldn't figure out what you were talking about. I figured it couldn't have been for me. And then
Mhm.
this and this and this happened, right? Like those type of situations, or I remember, or this was my aunt, or I did have this. And,
Hmm.
which is always wonderful to get those back, because it's
Yeah.
like, okay. And that's how we learn too.
Yeah.
This
I
is
think
the learning process.
I think it's really important to note too that I think spirit talks in like energetic terms too. So maybe her mom never referred to her as a special education teacher in life because she never pursued that. But energetically, it's in her, and maybe that was her dream or whatever. And now her mom's the spirit on the other side, and she's speaking in terms of who her daughter really is and truly is inside and energetically. And I feel like they do that a lot.
Mhm.
And you kind of sit there during the reading going, well, that's not my mom. She never would have called me that. But then when you
Yeah.
think they're a spirit now and they
Yeah.
see us differently now,
Mhm.
and you kind of have to put that into terms when you're having a reading.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. It is.
Yeah.
It is,
That is a
because
very
it is
good
a
point.
different perspective. And
Mm.
yeah. But again, it just goes back to trusting.
It
Yeah.
does, doesn't it? It all
You
goes
know,
back to that. That's the core of it all. Belief
That's
and trust.
super big lessons for me. I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
and like
Same.
I said, I'm Italian, so I'm stubborn. I'm like, no, damn it.
Yeah.
They're showing me this for a reason. I'm going to talk about this till something clicks.
Well, and I really love, what you were talking about when you said that, you followed a lot of different mediums and you read things, but you never actually saw anybody breaking down the process,
Right.
debunking the process, because Maren and I can both align with that. And that's been something that's been a goal for us on this channel, is debunking it, breaking
Yeah.
down the process and really digging into this and saying, this is what we experience. This is what it looks like. And all it is this is just my experience. This is Maren's experience. This is Michael's experience. And like we were saying with teaching, you take little bits out of it,
Yeah.
because that can help you go, oh, so that's what I was experiencing. Because when we don't know, and when we don't know what we're looking for, how to understand it, it's a language that we've always used, but it's been like the behind the scenes language. And spirit has always spoken to us through that language. But
Yeah.
until we understand what it means and how to break it down and how to understand it, we're not able to apply it. But
Right.
once we start to break it all down and understand it, well, we've got this whole new world opened up to us that will just keep giving. And so on that point, what's next for you? I know
I
you
don't
do
plan.
groups. You do groups.
Oh yeah, I do groups. I do
Yeah.
in-person dems. I teach.
Hmm.
But honestly, I don't have any plans. I mean, we talked about this, that I left my career, end of April or middle of April to
Yes, you
do this
did.
full time.
You
And
did.
actually, this is the third time I've done this. So the first two were just, tiptoeing into it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to my job.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was able to go back. But
Yeah.
this last time, but the last time I did go back was temporary, and they knew it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't planning to stay, but when I left, I was like, no, I kept feeling this pull. And again, it's, people have told me in the past, this is where it's going. And I get, okay, good. In the moment, that's what they were seeing.
Yeah.
So again, and that's another point with psychic readings that I like to highlight. It's not that spirit was wrong, as anybody was wrong. It's like, no,
Right.
that's my free will saying I don't feel comfortable in going back. I didn't
Yes.
fail at anything. I didn't, it was just that's how it is.
Yeah.
But this time, again, every time I went back, I was like, no, it feels wrong being here. This is over. And again, it was just up to me to like, no, I've been pulled long enough towards this direction and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And this time it's been completely different feeling. But honestly, I don't have any plans. Things, we talk about surrender, right? And not forcing things. And literally that's where I'm at. This interview, I mean, you reaching out to interview me, this is just again another cog in that little mechanism that it gives, me the opportunity to talk about my experience and share it with others. And little things like these, are happening. Yesterday I did my first service for a spiritualist church in Scotland.
Wow.
So I'm like, again, it's just things are opening up and just by just talking with people, things are happening. So it's kind of like I'm just letting things happen. I'm not planning any of this. It's just happening.
Yeah.
So
Which is
that's where I'm at.
a wonderful way to live.
Yeah.
As you said, you learned how to be present, how to be in the moment. And that is a gift. And
Yeah.
that is where spirit is. Spirit is present in the moment, not in the future, not in the past. They are right here. And that's why I think one of the reasons why you're such a great medium is that you are very present and you don't go too much into all of the other stuff. You just stick with where you're at, where things are at, which is how we manifest.
And it's that trust word again.
Yeah.
I trust that there's a plan and I'm just following it.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, really, that's boiling it down. I just trust there's a plan in place that I'm not aware of.
Yeah.
I'm just following the breadcrumbs, if you will.
One quick thing before we end, can you share with us what the group experience is like for you with spirit as compared to the one-on-ones?
Yeah. It's weird because I've evolved back and forth. So in the beginning, private readings, and then within only a few months of learning I was a medium, I did my first group reading, which, I always put myself in these uncomfortable situations because that's just how I am. It's still uncomfortable, but I find every opportunity to be uncomfortable because I don't want it to get stagnant and be on a plateau. I always want to be uncomfortable because that's when we learn, right?
Yeah.
So the energy in a group setting is just, it's just, you can feel it. It's just so different. So if you're sitting there, like you used the example earlier where you have a client that's not really, maybe not into this, you feel that. And it's like, oh my God, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, that's only one person. So if I'm doing a group reading for 40 people, there may be 4 or 5 of those people, but I don't even feel it because of all the other people and their excitement about being there. So it's a whole different energy. And again, it's knowing, I use this example. A musician has, months to practice their music before they perform. We get up there, we don't know what the hell's about to happen. We don't know who's going to show up. So again, it's trusting that, all right, I know they're there. They're going to show up. Don't worry about this.
Yeah.
Does that put me at ease? No, I'm still a nervous wreck before everyone.
Yeah.
But I've accepted that's how it's going to be. I just live with that and I know that's how it's going to be. But the energy is just, it's there. It's just crazy energy.
Yeah. And it just carries you through.
It does. It flows and, you just one to the other because you gotta, I always feel that at least you have everybody there at least has one person in spirit.
Yes.
So if there's 40 people there, you got 80, but there's much more than that. So they're there. I mean, it's just a matter of who gets my attention first, and that's who I talk with.
Yes.
So
yeah, I love that. I love that. So we're going to put your information in the description, and
thank you.
Absolutely, we're going to have you back. And what we would like to do is, it would be awesome to do a live with the 3 of us and bring on everybody, and we can all chat with our group here, with our Healing Heart family, and we can maybe do a little mediumship, answer some questions, just kind of have some fun. And so that would be great. and I would love to do that this summer, bring you back and do that.
Yeah.
Maren, do you have any other questions for Michael before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for being with us. And if you want to let us know where we can reach you now. And we'll put it in the notes too, but say it out loud too. So
Sure. So my website's michaelchristophermedium.com. I am on Facebook, so Michael Christopher Evidential Medium. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. I don't know how that happened, but I'm there. I'm also on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I do a radio show every Monday with my friend Jennifer. We've been working together for almost over 3 years now.
Cool.
So that was another opportunity to just present it, just a month or so ago. And now, we do this radio show every Monday on WLTK DB radio.
Wonderful.
And that links on my website too. So, and we do question and answer. We usually come up with a topic.
Oh, I went silent.
Can broadcast it there also.
It just went.
Yeah,
every now and again it goes silent.
You came back. It's all right.
I'm back. I'm
yeah.
back.
So I've never heard. Yeah, I've never heard of Twitch before. That's really interesting. And I'm not on TikTok, so you're beating me, and I'm a millennial or whatever you say.
Are you on Twitch? Do you?
Yeah.
So how do you do that? What do you do on Twitch?
I don't intend. It's basically I use StreamYard for my streaming right. So you can broadcast to like 3 or 4 places.
Okay.
So what I do is I just put it on. I just created a channel because I heard of Twitch through someone's radio show. So I was like, well, and I saw StreamYard has that option. You can just, so I'm like, well, I'll StreamYard there too. If it generates something great. Yeah. Same thing with Twitter. I just put it in the feed and that's where it goes to YouTube, Facebook, or, 3 at a time.
Yeah. StreamYard is my next goal here, Maren, for us to hook it up.
I was just going to say, Michelle, I think we need to do that.
That's what we're going to do. So that Michael,
I can teach you all about StreamYard.
Yes. He can help us out to get us all set up, because again, we won't go into Michelle's technology, or I can't even say the word. I can't even say
Believe
it.
Me. I just push buttons till something works. That's how I did air traffic control for 30 years. I just let's see if this works. No.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, wait a minute here. I don't know if that's such a good idea. What happens if we press this great big red button here? What will this do?
Oh, I've had that experience. But anyway, that's another story.
Well, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing. I mean, really, that was just a surface of your story, because you've got just so much in there, and we will be talking again and digging into all of that, but it's very inspiring, and I'll tell you, at the beginning when you were talking about your brother Jason, I could feel him here as you were talking, and he said, yes, that was him giving you that push. So I know you know that, but
he's a pain in the ass, and he will eternally be a pain in my ass.
Yeah,
so,
Jackie's here.
So I have to tell you a story. I wasn't going to say it on air because no one's going to believe this, but your entire family came to me in a dream. And as you were describing each one of them, I was like, oh, I think that's so there were 2 boys. There were 2 younger men, an older man. I'll tell you the story. So I always dream about houses for whatever reason. Like I'm always picking out these houses, and I was making a house, these people were designing the house for me. And my mom was like, you got to throw away I had these like plastic toys. She's like, you got to throw these toys away. And I said, I can't throw these away. The kids love these plastic toys. And there were these 2, they were older kids, like in their 20s, like playing with these, like they weren't Legos. I don't know what they were, toys. And I was like, okay. And it was like just really weird. And then they give me the tour of my house, and there's this guy like making me something, and they give me the tour of the house. And then this woman comes in, and she's like, I thought she was like the main decorator lady. And she was like, how do you like your house? And I was like, this is great. Thank you so much. And she's like, okay, well, I've got to go. I have an appointment with the murderer. And I was like, okay, so random. Yeah.
Wow.
And it like stuck with me because it was so real. and then the next day I was meditating, and one of the boys came, and he looked like a mix between like Eric and my neighbor. And he was, older, and he wouldn't leave. And kid you not, he was standing there, he wouldn't leave. And then all of a sudden, and when you said cowboy hat, I was like, stop it. He took a cowboy hat and did that. Yes. And so you're telling me this story, and I'm like, okay, there's the boy. All right. And I know you had the second brother. That's really interesting. And I wonder who that lady was. And then you said your sister was murdered. And I was like, stop it. So
I got to show you a picture. I got to show you. So this is Jason.
I'll go the other way. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. And then I'll show you a picture of Jackie. So that's Jackie.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's hard to see with the reflection,
Oh, I
but
can see
yeah.
it.
So
That
that's
is
Jackie.
unbelievable.
Maren, your dreams and meditations, like this is what happens. We'll meet and like just start talking about something, and she's already had a dream and met these people or these spirit. It is unbelievable. It's so cool.
Yeah. And so when I meditated, I saw your brother, and then the woman came in, and I was like, okay, they're connected somehow, so now I know how.
Yeah.
That's when you were saying that story, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Wow. Wow.
Crazy.
That is amazing. That's amazing. Well, they'll definitely be participating with us in the lives and that too, because there's a lot here. We've got a lot of support here today. I can feel, so it'll be good.
No, we do. And, we all have our story. Everybody's story is unique, and everybody's road has not been the easiest.
No.
But I think that I'll share this and then I'll shut up. But it's one prominent thing that I always remember with Jackie, especially one of her messages after her passing was, look what has become of my passing. And what she was highlighting is, yes, it was a devastating, just traumatic experience, but look what came out of it. Look what she specifically was like, look what you're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, wow.
Yeah.
Something I never saw coming in a million years. This was definitely not even a thought. Yeah. And look what's happened. So yeah.
Like she orchestrates a lot for you, because
oh yeah,
she was in the dream.
Yeah. She has.
The decorator, the planner.
Red like purse briefcase thing.
Yeah, she's got your back. She's booking all your appointments. Is what she's doing.
Yes, that's right.
She's setting everything up, because you can bet Jackie and Eric were poking me for us to get together.
Yeah.
But this has been a long time coming. We've been talking about this for a while. So
we have.
So now we've got a foot in the door, and so we'll keep going. We'll keep going.
Well, it was an honor and a privilege to be here, especially being the first guest. I truly appreciate this.
Thank you. This will be a celebration day. So thank you very much. So thanks everybody. Thank you so much. And we'll let you know when Michael's coming back on, and when Maren and I get StreamYard. Probably Maren will have more to do with it than me, because she's much better at it than I am. But we'll let you know when we're going to be doing that. And aside from that, we hope that you guys all have a wonderful week. Thanks for sticking it out with us for the couple weeks that we don't post things, because stuff happens. My daughter broke her leg, and that just kind of threw things in a wrench for a few days, but we're always back to it, and that's what we do. We just keep coming back. All right, so have a great week, guys. Love you, Maren. Love you, Michael. All the spirits. Love you all. Have a great week. We'll see you
too.
next time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Love you, Michelle. Bye.